Now that ballot counting is underway, it's going to be a pretty intense couple of hours for many people. To help us dissect the numbers and give us an overview of what the outcome means for South Korea's political realm, our political correspondent Kim Min-ji is with us in the studio again. Min-ji, thank you for joining us again. So what do we have at this moment?
Well, Daniel, all the ballots have been cast and voter turnout tentatively for now is 60.2%. Now, the elections have been largely overshadowed by the summit between North Korea and the U.S., but voter turnout is still almost 4 percentage points higher than the figure back in last local elections back in 2014. And actually, it's the first time in over 20 years that the figure has surpassed 60% for the local elections. Now, as we've heard our reporters say, it's the first nationwide election under the Moon Jae-in administration, so the outcome is being seen as a barometer of public sentiment toward the government. Now, ballot counting is underway, as we heard, and we will be bringing you details of the figures and who the votes went to during our next newscast. But for now, we'll be looking at the exit polls. Now, we can't rely on them for sure, but they do give us an idea of what we can expect. Now, if we start with the race for Seoul mayor, we can see that Park Won-soon of the ruling Democratic Party of Korea is in the lead comfortably with 55.9%. Next up is the race for Busan mayor. Here, likewise, the ruling party is in the lead with Oh Go-don with 58.6% according to exit polls. Next up is the Daegu mayor. Here we can see that the main opposition Liberty Korea party Kwon Young-jin is in the lead with 52.2%, and Daegu is seen as a conservative stronghold. Next up is the race for Incheon mayor. Here, the ruling party is in the lead with 59.3%. For the next region is Gwangju mayor, also a liberal stronghold. Here in the lead is Lee Yong-sup of the ruling Democratic Party of Korea with 83.6%. Next up is the race for Daejeon mayor. Here again, the ruling party in the lead with 60%. Moving on. The race for Ulsan mayor, another conservative stronghold, but in the lead by Song Chol-ho of the ruling Democratic Party of Korea, and he overtakes the incumbent mayor, Kim Gi-hyun of the Liberty Korea Party. Looking at the next district is Sejong, and the race for mayor here is in the lead by the ruling Democratic Party once again with 72.2%. In other regions, for the Gyeonggi-do province governor, Lee Jae-myung is in the lead with 59.3% despite being mired in scandal in the last minute. In the next region, Gangwon-do province, the race for governor here, Choi Moon-soon, the incumbent mayor of Gangwon-do province, is in the lead with 66.6%. Moving on to the next district, Chungcheongbuk-do province. Here again, the ruling party in the lead, Lee Si-jong, with 65.4%. Moving on, in the Chungcheongnam-do province for governor, the ruling party again in the lead, Yang Sung-jo with 63.7%. In other districts, for the Jeollabuk-do province, another liberal stronghold, the Democratic Party of Korea in the lead with 75%. In Jeollanam-do province, also in the lead, the ruling party candidate with 82%. Moving on. And in Gyeongsangbuk-do province, which is also a conservative stronghold, we can see that the main opposition Liberty Korea party in the lead with 54.9%. And moving on to Gyeongsangnam-do province, here also a traditional conservative stronghold, but led by a ruling party candidate Kim Kyung-soo with 56.8%. Also here, despite being marred in a scandal regarding online opinion rigging. Moving on. In Jeju-do province, Won Il-ryong, who is an independent candidate and the incumbent mayor of Jeju with 50.3%. Now we're going to move on for the exit polls for the by-elections. In Seoul's Nowon-si district, we can also see that the ruling party is in the lead with 60.9%. Running up is a candidate from the Barometer party. In Seoul's Songpa B district, we can see that Choi Jae-sang of the ruling Democratic Party of Korea is in a comfortable lead with 57.2%, and he is trailed by the conservative candidate Bae Hyun-jin, who was an anchor at MBC with 28.2%. In Busan's Haeundae B district, we can see that the ruling party candidate is also in a safe lead with 54.4%. Moving on. In Incheon Namdong A district, we can also see that the ruling party is in the lead with 65.9%. In other districts, the Gwangju-so A district, the Seonggap-suk of the ruling party is in the lead with 85.1%. In Ulsan's Buk district, we can see that the ruling party is also in the lead, 52.2%, despite being a conservative stronghold. In other regions, the Chuncheongbuk-do, Jecheon, Danyang district, here it's a very tight race. We can see that the gap between the two is less than 2 percentage points. So we will have to take a close look here. In Chungcheongnam-do province, Cheonan A district, the ruling party is in the lead, Lee Kyu-hee, with 56.8%. In Chungcheongnam-do Cheonan C district, again, the ruling party in the lead with 65.9%. And Jeollanam-do Yeongnam Muan Sinan district, also a liberal stronghold rather, in the lead, ruling Democratic Party of Korea's Seo Sam-suk with 72.4%. And Gyeongsang-Buk-do province here in Kimcheon, we can see that the main opposition Liberty Korea Party, Song Eun-suk, is in the lead with 55.1%. And final opinion polls released last week actually showed that the independent candidate was in the lead, but today exit polls show the opposite. And in Gyeongsangnam-do Kim-il B district, again, the ruling Democratic Party in the lead with 68.5%.
Yeah, the conservative bloc looking a little bit shaky in their usual home turf there, and not much of a nail-biter so far for the Liberty Korea, rather the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so the exit polls have been more or less in line with the final opinion polls that were released last Wednesday. Now, for the local elections, we saw that the ruling Democratic Party of Korea is actually in the lead in 14 of 17 metropolitan cities or provinces. And something to note is that they have overtaken their conservative counterparts in conservative strongholds. Now, for the main opposition Liberty Korea Party, it's in the lead in 2 districts at the moment, Daegu and Gyeongsangbuk-do province. Initially, it had aimed to win at least 6 positions. And as we heard in our previous newscast, that the chief of the main opposition party said he would take responsibility for the results, so we will have to see what he means by that. And lastly, an independent candidate is leading in Jeju-do province. He is the incumbent governor of Jeju and initially a lawmaker of the centrist barometer party, but he left the party before the elections. So the race for mayor and governor is actually seen as mainly a race between the 2 biggest parties.
Right, 2 biggest parties. Interestingly, I was hoping for the respective top honchos of the ruling bloc and the main opposition to perhaps throw out a few pledges, something drastic if the voter turnout reached beyond 60%, but I believe they did not do that this time. They did it for the early voting, though.
Yes.
Well, regardless, could there have been any other variables at play affecting the races up to this point?
Well, this time around, what political pundits have said that there is a distinctive factor different from previous elections in that people want to show their support for the government's peace initiative, given the recent developments with North Korea. So the latest developments on the peninsula no doubt have played a favorable factor for the ruling party, as we can see. And as it's the first nationwide election, we thought that more people would be assessing the government's failures and successes, but obviously we can see that the main opposition party hasn't positioned itself too well to become a strong alternative. So not many variables remain that could turn things around at the last minute. Some factors that experts said was allegations regarding the candidates themselves or voter turnout, as well as undecided voters to having key to having a change or impact on the outcome. Because opinion polls actually showed that between 20 and 40% of people were undecided about who to vote. And there's also a block of voters known as shy conservatives, those who don't tell pollsters that they actually support the main opposition Liberty Korea Party, given their tainted image following the ousting of a former president. The
possible X factor that the Liberty Korea Party is constantly counting on at this point. Well, regardless of some of the, unfortunately, we had to mention the facts that some of the Democratic Party candidates were mired in scandals that arose while they were running for these positions. But it seems like they are rather unfazed, or rather their followers are not exactly thrown off by these allegations so far.
Yes, what political experts have said that because it involves the candidates themselves, at the moment they want to give their support for the party as a whole. So they were saying the last-minute allegations regarding these candidates wouldn't have had too big of an effect, and especially because the elections came a day after the summit between North Korea and the U.S. that would have overshadowed most of the big issues that were coming from the political scene.
Right, so far the voters are understanding the whole is greater than the sum of all its parts, and naturally the emotion of disappointment towards the Liberty Korea Party and the previous conservative establishments, because they are still remembering clearly the first ever impeachment of a democratically elected South Korean president.
That's right. So what experts have said was, rather, if the Liberty Korea Party had positioned itself in a better position, actually saying that the ruling party was doing a good job in certain affairs, and then also raising other issues such as like the economy being in the doldrums and things like this, then it would have been, they're saying that the polls could have been a little bit more favorable towards the main opposition party.
Right.